Hi, everyone, and welcome to Walter's Wives and Woes.
I'm Shelby,
And I'm Marissa, and we are
the
the
Walters
Walters Girls. We want to give a trigger warning for this episode and for the entire series. We'll be discussing experiences related to abusive relationships, which may be distressing for some listeners. Please take care of yourself, and if you need to, feel free to pause or skip this episode. If you or someone you know needs support, we'll include resources in the show notes. And also, we are always here for any help whatsoever. Welcome back, everyone, to Walter's Wives and Woes. This is the second episode of our three-part series, and today's episode is called When We Thought She Might Actually Marry Him. So, if you haven't listened to the first episode of this series, I definitely recommend going back and listening to it, or else you are going to be completely lost. A lot was talked about in that episode. Very heavy conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So in this episode, it's really just gonna focus on a little bit of my perspective and my mom's as well. I wish she was here to talk during this.
Mm-hmm.
But when we left off, Shelby had just disclosed the first time her ex was ever physical with her. And that would have been in the fall. We were just talking about it. It would have been in the fall of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say from then on, keep in mind, I already hated him. I did not know this was going on. I don't really remember when, or do you remember when you confided in mom, or when I questioned the bruises on you? Do you remember?
I really feel like that was towards the end of our relationship.
To where it had been going on for a couple of years.
Yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah. And during this time, as I said before, Shelby was not basically involved in our lives. I remember getting so mad because they would come to our family Christmas and family Thanksgiving are a huge thing. Always have been. They're all day things. And Shelby and her ex would show up right whenever we're getting ready to eat. They would eat and they would leave. And it would make me so mad. And I remember so many times being like, he doesn't want to be here because we don't drink.
Yeah, for sure.
And he thought you could only have fun if you were drinking.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Oh, for sure. I did just recall. So yeah, I definitely remember hating him. So the abuse started in fall of 2015. We went on vacation to Florida. The vacation from hell.
That was December of 2014.
No, 2015.
No, it was December of 2014.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's when we got back together.
It wasn't 14.
It was. It was right after we got back together. Right when he got back from Cancun. We went to Florida. Like a week later. Just trust me, it was.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in college. Oh, I was in college. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, December 2014. Okay,
Okay,
that's where
maybe.
I was
Yeah.
getting held up. Derek was still in high school. I
Yeah.
was in college. So just December 2014, we went to Florida and we drove Shelby's Equinox. And I was in the back seat with Shelby and Numbnuts, slammed up against the freaking door. He had his legs wide open, taking up all this room. I was so mad because I'm like, I don't even want to be here with him. And still makes me mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a fun vacation.
No.
Mainly because I just hated him. But he ruined a couple of vacations for me.
I don't remember the other ones.
Tennessee
Yeah.
of 2016, Derek and I had just gotten married. I was ticked because Derek and I were married, and yet we're sleeping out on a blow up mattress while Shelby and.
Mind you, that's because you guys showed up like a day or two later.
So you should have been kicked out. You weren't married. Oh, I was so mad. Chase is like, this isn't right. They're not married. Chase hated him too, still does. But it was just like for a couple of years, just like constantly
hating
him, being so upset with Shelby, like not understanding why she kept going back with him. And I just could not wrap my brain around it. And I remember telling my mom, like, this is not love, this is infatuation. And, I'm the little sister, like, Marissa's young, she doesn't know. This was the love of Shelby's life. And I remember telling her so many times whenever she was crying because they were breaking up literally every weekend for months. And I'm just like, seriously?
Yeah.
But I just remember telling her, like, Shelby, loving someone should not be this hard. It should not hurt this much. And took her a long time to figure out how true that statement was.
Mm-hmm.
But there for a while, we totally thought she was going to marry him. He talked about it all the time. He talked about buying her a pearl instead of a diamond.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, such a loser.
Just because he knew it irritated me.
Yeah. And, like, I totally thought she was going to marry him. I remember telling my mom, like, I just hope she doesn't get pregnant. Like, that would be catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
Because then she would be stuck with him. And thankfully that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was to the point, like, he was in our family pictures in 2017 because I remember saying, well, Shelby's probably going to marry him so he can be in the family pictures.
Yeah.
And when did it really start to fall apart? I don't even know. This whole time they're living in this shack of a house. When I say dump, I mean makes the slums of New York look good. Like,
so to preface this, I can remember during the winter, we would go upstairs to our bedroom and we could see our breath. The heater in our room said 38 degrees one night, and I was like, I can't live here anymore. Like, this is horrible. And
yeah, after they moved out, the house was literally torn down.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. I remember the bathroom.
Well, do you remember the one night when his cousin had to come over because our pipes were froze, so they brought the salamander over.
And then
it started smoldering, and they were debating on letting the house burn down.
Yeah.
While we lived in it. They're like, do you got any important paperwork up there? And I'm like, I think I should call my ex, and because he was out of town for work. And I was like, I called him and I'm like, hey, your cousin's like thinking about burning down the house. Should I get any important paperwork out of here? And he's like, what? My TV's in there, mate.
Oh my god.
Like stuff that didn't matter. He was worried about. But yeah, it was a crap hole.
It really was.
Such a crap hole.
It was.
But he was putting a roof over my head.
Yeah, such a great roof.
Yeah.
$150. That's what $150 buys you. And apparently a housewife and a cook comes for $150, he got a crap hole house, a housewife and a cook.
I never cooked for him though.
That's what he says, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Good times.
But yeah, it was just like for years it was, well, Shelby and What's His Nuts broke up. No. Shelby and her boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, broke up. Now they're back together. Mom and dad are moving Shelby out of the house. Mom and dad are moving Shelby back into the house. Shelby's on the phone crying because Lord knows what. Like, it was constant.
Yep. He kicked me out of the house more times than I can count because that was his power move.
And I would have said, please kick me out of this crap hole. Like, please. And what really made me mad, like, this whole time is, as much as I hated him, anytime we would hang out, we'd always have such a good time.
Yep.
I hated that. And that's how Derek was too. It's like, no matter how much you hate him, you still have a great time with him because he is so much fun. He is so charming. He is the perfect narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And
really.
so,
and I think from like my standpoint, that was also equally frustrating because people loved hanging out with him.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is wrong with me? Like, he's such a good time. Like, his friends support him even when they know all of this crap is happening. And it's because he's a narcissist. Like, he had them fooled just as much as he had me fooled. Like, they knew he pulled this stuff, he did this stuff, but like in the moment with him, you had such a good time that people like forgot about all of that.
Yes, you would,
including myself.
You would completely forget.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we'd get done hanging out, I'd be so mad at myself. Like, why did you have a good time with him?
Yeah.
Like, he's a piece of crap. And it's just, it was so hard. And then our parents. So our dad never interfered in the relationship. Like, it was frustrating. But was I talking to you or mom about just like dad saying, no matter what we do, she's going to have to figure it out on her own.
Mm-hmm.
She won't be ready to leave until she's ready to leave. And like, you know, our dad was just wise. I feel like he was far from perfect, but he got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it still made me upset that he would not confront Shelby's ex and basically say, I know what you're doing to my daughter and I don't approve of it. But he knew if he did that, she would just be isolated from us even more.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, and dad got it too. Like, he always compared he always told me, he's like, honey, he is a wild stallion. And he goes, you can't break a wild stallion.
Yeah.
He's like, you might be able to lock him up in a cage for a little while, but he's still a wild stallion. And he's like, and the moment he gets set loose, he's right back to doing the things he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't that the truth?
Yeah. He would have, it was always a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
She'd take him back if he would change this, and this. And he'd be good for, 3 weeks?
Well, at first it would start out as like 2 months. We were on a cycle of like every 2 months a storm would come and wreck us. And then like the longer our relationship went, like the time just between the
shorter and shorter.
Yeah, the time between like the fights and the breakups just became shorter and shorter, where it was like it got to the point where every weekend it was something.
Literally, we're not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Every weekend. They were together Monday through Thursday. Come Friday, broken up.
Yeah, because he needed to go do whatever he needed to do on the weekend. Basically, he wanted me to be like a housewife during the week to him, and then he wanted to be a party animal on the weekends and do whatever the heck he wanted. And it was just
And he always,
exhausting.
yes. And he would always get her to come back because he'd cue the tears. He'd call our mom saying how much he loved her, blah, blah, blah.
Tell me he's going to kill himself, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's like typical narcissist.
Yeah, for
to
sure.
threaten their life. And it's, he never would have done it.
No. Clearly.
Yes. But for the longest time, like, totally thought they were going to get married.
Yeah.
And
I mean, up until, like, you know, we had talked about marriage, talked about children.
I remember telling you, because I don't know how it was, but I remember telling you, I'm like, if he actually wanted to marry you, you would already be married.
Yeah. Yep.
And because I felt like you held on to that, like, well, we're going to get married.
Yeah. That, and I held on to the amount of time I had invested. Like, months eventually turned into years. And then the next thing I know, I've spent the majority of my 20s with this guy. And I very much had in my mind, like, if I leave now, it's too late. Like, how do I start over?
Mm-hmm.
Who's getting married in their 30s? Who's having kids in their 30s? Like, that definitely played a role in, like, my mindset. And also just the fact that, you know, he's like, we were made for each other. Like, we're supposed to be together. Like, pumping my head with all of these thoughts. Like, we are supposed to be together. I mean, the way everything played out, like, we've been through so much and blah, blah, blah. And really, it was just like all manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where, like, 2018, which is when things started to really fall apart, like, really fall apart. We got into, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018. I feel like it was 2017 when we got into a really, really big fight. And the cops were called by one of my friends. And the state of Indiana actually pressed charges because it was a domestic dispute. And clearly I was the victim and he was the aggressor. And really, ever since then, it just kind of crumbled. And like that, I think that was in 2017. So, like, for that next year, it was just like real touch and go. We actually weren't even supposed to see each other. The state of Indiana had placed a no contact order between the two of us. But of course, you know, we lived in Ohio and we're like, you know, nobody's going to follow up on this, and nobody did.
Can you share? Are you willing to share a little bit more about that? What happened? Because what happened afterwards, whenever you spun the story to make it look like it was your fault, I feel like so many victims of domestic violence do.
Gabby Petito.
Yes.
So in I think it was 2017, our friends had gotten married earlier in the year and they were having a reception. So me, my ex, and one of our really good friends, one of my best friends still, he doesn't communicate with my ex anymore, but we went to their place to celebrate the night before. And my ex and I and our friend, we went to the bars the night before in Angola. And our friends that were having the reception the next day stayed home because she was pregnant. And we had a really great night. Like, I mean, it was so much fun. And we got back that night to their house. And my ex, we had ate Mexican earlier that night. And he asked me to go in and warm up some leftover nachos for him. And I was like, yeah, sure. No, you know, whatever. So I went inside and my ex and my friend were still outside and I warmed up the nachos And about 15 to 20 minutes goes by, and I'm like, what are they doing? And I went outside, and they were gone. And I was so mad. So mad because, one, it was a complete trick on me. He lured me into the house to warm up his food so him and my friend could leave and go to this other party. And like a crazy person, because I am not gonna lie, I was crazy. Like
He made you
he
crazy.
made me crazy.
He made us all crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I threatened to slit his throat with a rusty kitchen knife.
Yeah.
No sane person does that.
Yeah. So I called him, like, I'm not kidding, I think it was like 32 times. Like, it was just like, call, he ignored me, and I'd call again, call, ignore, whatever. So finally, I was so mad. I was like, I'm going to go find him. So I got in my car and I pulled out of the driveway and I went down the road, like maybe a mile. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't even know where they're at. Like, there was so much rage that I was just like, I'm going to go find them. But again, we're out in the country in Angola. I'm not familiar with the area. I have no idea where they are. And so I pull over on the side of the road to get turned around. At this time, there's a car coming towards me, and it just so happened to be them. So I turn around and I follow them into the driveway. And again, I'm so mad. I get out of my car. I go up to him and I just slap him across the face. Like, it was a good one. It was like hand all the way across the face. And that's where I made a mistake. And again, my ex has like 70 to 80 pounds on me at this time. And he grabs me by the hair and just starts throwing me into the driveway, gravel. And this happens, I don't know how many times. He would throw me down. I'd stand back up. He'd grab me by the hair and throw me down again. Like, I knew I ticked him off. I probably embarrassed him because I slapped him across the face in front of our other friend. And so I was screaming loud enough that my friends who were inside their house sleeping woke up. And they came running outside. And the next thing I know, I'm in their kitchen and the cops are walking up to me. And they're asking me what happened. And I was like, nothing's happened. And they're like, honey, that's clearly not the case. They're like, you're covered in blood. You're covered in scratches. Your hair is a wreck. Like, something happened. And all I kept saying was, nothing happened. I just need to go to sleep. And during that time, they arrested my ex and my friend because they were getting ready to leave when the cops got called, because my friend and then, or my ex and then my friend living at the house got into a fist fight. And he told my ex that the cops were coming. And so they freaked out and they were getting ready to leave. Well, as they're getting ready to pull out of the driveway, the cops show up. So one of my good friends who's with my ex, he gets a DUI because he's operating a vehicle at the time. And then my ex gets thrown into jail for domestic battery. And so they spent the entire weekend in jail. And I feel like this was like a holiday or something, because I know they couldn't get out until or no, it wasn't a holiday, but they went in Friday night. The judge doesn't work until Monday morning. So they spent the entire weekend in the drunk tank. And so the judge released them on Monday on bail. And it was a whole thing with one of my good friends. Like, he lost his license for a while. He was getting ready to move. And then my ex, I didn't press charges. The state of Indiana asked me if I wanted to press charges. I didn't. Hindsight's 2020. But in the state of Indiana, on domestic battery or domestic violence charges, the state can press charges. And there was enough evidence for them, like based on what they saw with me, that they decided to press charges. So that's when this whole thing started. And my ex and I had a no contact order. So that was that. Of course, it was all my fault. He ended up not having to serve any jail time, but he did have to do like community service. And then he had to pay like a pretty hefty lawyer and fine, like a lawyer fee and then a fine. And then he was on like, I think it was like probation for like a year.
And hadn't he just gotten off probation for his other felony?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So he had a felony for, was it battery and assault?
Mm-hmm.
From before they ever started dating. So
Yeah.
if you can't tell, like, that's his MO.
Yeah.
Let's just beat people up.
He definitely had a history of domestic violence.
All of his exes.
Yeah. I think every relationship he's been in, there's been domestic violence. I mean, dating back to like his first serious relationship in like junior high and high school, like they beat the crap out of each other. Like, just, it's been unhealthy from the beginning. Like, it wasn't just me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that going into it, and I thought I could change him, blah, blah, blah.
And I think he also had you somewhat convinced that that stuff wasn't true, or that the other person also was abusive towards him.
He had me convinced that all of his exes were crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And again, looking back, I'm like, I should have been like, there's a common denominator here. But again, all the gaslighting and the manipulation, like, it really does mess with you. Like, to the point where my ex, like, would build me up so much just so he could tear me down. And then he'd build me back up and tear me back down. Like, it was a cycle to the point where I just felt worthless. Like, and then you get to the point where you're like, no one's going to want me. No one's going to want me after I've been with him. No one's going to want someone who's battered and broken down and just like nothing.
Yeah, you thought so little of yourself. And he was the only one that could ever make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
It's
sad, but like going through it, I have so much more empathy for women who are going through it.
And for women who stay.
And for women who stay, because I know staying is the easy part. Staying is easier than leaving. As crazy as that sounds, but it is. It's just easier to stay. And like, it eventually got to the point where I was just like, I started to become really calloused and like, I just didn't care as much. Like, we'd break up so often that I was just like, I don't even care. Like, we're probably going to get back together in 2 days anyway, so who cares? Like, you become so desensitized from the trauma because that's the only way you can survive, is to become desensitized from it. And it wasn't until like 2018, like, again, we were a wreck, like that next year following that
and
assault.
I want to pop in. So at this time, everyone knew he was abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, by then, because you guys broke up in 2018.
Yeah.
So by this time, everyone knew he was abusive. And you know what? I made sure to tell everybody because I wanted everyone to know how terrible of a person he was. And I know Shelby got upset with me. At this point, we really weren't talking very much. There were pretty much from like 2015 to 2018, we didn't talk a whole lot. Because, I said it how it was. And I remember the day I found bruises on her arm. They were clearly handprints. And I grabbed her arm and I'm like, "What are these?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. I bruise so easily anymore." That was my first where I was like, yeah, he definitely did that to her. And I don't think you ever flat out told me. I remember talking to you and I was like, "Shelby, he beat you." And you're like, "No, he doesn't. He's never hit me. He just throws me around."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "That's still abuse." But you always made excuses for him. Like, he just throws me around. He doesn't hit me. He doesn't slap me. He doesn't punch me.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And like trying to tell you that's still abuse and you making excuses for him was one of the most frustrating things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, at this time, we knew how bad the relationship was.
I
And
still didn't know how bad it was.
no, like,
because that story I just told, they didn't know.
no, I just found out about that last week.
No, you knew before.
If I knew before, I didn't remember it. I feel like I'd remember that.
No.
My thing that made me so angry was there were so many people that knew what was going on, and I felt like no one helped her. None of his friends helped her. Like, it just makes, like, even now, like, I could cry because it's like, why didn't they help her?
They didn't know the full extent.
I'm sorry, but if I saw Jeremy out in your front yard throwing you around, like, I would make sure to tell the whole world what he did.
Well, like those two friends, trust me, they didn't hang out with the rest of our friends. But
Yeah.
like that was pretty much like
Big eye opener for them.
Yeah, well, and like my girlfriend, she still hates him.
Yeah.
Like, and she's still like, I mean, she told me, she's like, "You need to press charges." She's like, "You need to press charges."
Well, and I'm so thankful for her because if she wasn't there, would the cops have been called?
I don't know. She's the one who called.
Yeah. But yeah, you know who you are. And I feel like this person and I would almost bet if I went through Messenger, we had messages talking about
Oh, for sure.
Shelby and her ex. But I felt like she was pretty much the only one, and it was because she was mainly friends with you.
Yeah.
But all of his friends knew what was going on.
To some extent.
But whenever you're a crap person, sorry, you got crap friends.
Yeah.
And it was just such a hard time. Like, not only for Shelby, but for us, because we didn't know what he was fully capable of. And like I know Mom said there were so many times she didn't know, like, whenever you left the house, if she'd ever see you again.
Yeah.
And it's like,
which
that
makes me sad.
Yeah. Well, me and Mom would just talk, and I would just be like, I don't know what it's going to take. And I felt like our parents were very gracious, and to this day, there's still our dad's not here, but our mom still has a soft spot for Shelby's ex.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just goes to show, because of our faith and especially our mom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't have a soft spot for him and I never will. But our mom and dad always had a soft spot for him because they wanted the best for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that always made it hard.
Yeah.
Because they knew everything he was doing was wrong, but they still had the soft spot. Like, he had every excuse in the book to be who he is. Those who let their situation define them, and those who overcome their situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I had said that so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm like, I'm sorry, you can come up with every excuse in the book. You're the person that decides to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's your decision.
Well, my ex was notorious for letting his past
Define him.
like be his crutch. And he definitely would like use that to like make me feel bad. Like, he definitely used that against me. And I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for him for 6.5 years. Like, and I always tried to find the good in him, because I do think there was some good, and I'm sure there still is some good. But he continued to make the same mistakes over and over again. I always told him, I'm like, don't tell me you're sorry if you're going to do it again. Because to me, I'm sorry means I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it again. So like, his I'm sorries just became, they were just words. There was never remorse. There was never real like guilt. It was just a couple of words he could say to get me back.
And the tears were an act.
Yeah.
They weren't meaningful.
Yeah. Like, and now like I can look back and say like, yeah, it was all just like this ploy to get me back. Because like, I think my ex, and the reason why we were together for so long, and he knew I was the type of person that you marry and settle down with and have a family with. But he also knew I was the type of person that was always going to push him to be better. And he didn't want to be pushed to be better. He wanted to be himself. And who he is not a very good person.
Yep.
And, you know, the woman he's with, I hope he treats her better. I just hope that one day he does change and he's a better man and a better husband and a better dad than what he was and what he's grown up with. Because like, even though he had a crap childhood, like him and his dad, like his dad wasn't the best role model, he did have a good role model. His mom married an amazing man, and a man who was a good father and a good husband. So like, even though he, you know, can blame his child, he's seen both ways.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen the good and he's seen the bad.
It comes down to choice.
And yeah, it definitely comes down to choice.
And in regards to Shelby, you know, wanting him to be better, if you can't love them where they're at,
Yeah.
then it's not going to work out.
No.
All the women that they're the fixer-uppers, you will never be fully happy.
No.
Neither one of you.
No.
You got to love the person with where they're at. But that doesn't mean you can't still work together to better yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's whenever you're like, well, things will be better if he does this. Or when he starts doing this, our relationship will be better.
Mm-hmm.
There should never be a change that big should never be required to love somebody fully and
No.
be happy.
Yeah.
Because I believe that you truly loved him.
Mm-hmm.
but you loved who he could be even more than who he was.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So that is pretty much 2017. And then 2018 comes around.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the rocks. And Shelby buys a house.
Yeah. I bought my first house because, you know, he and I had looked at so many houses. We put in an offer on a house, it fell through. Thank God, is all I have to say. And then in 2018, my sister tells me that her mother in law is moving out of her rental to be with her husband, and that house is going up for sale. And I meet with the owners and I buy it. And I even remember telling him that, like, because we were broken up and,
But
you
you
know,
guys were
he's,
still on the fritz.
yeah, we're still talking. And I was like, I bought a house. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, you know, these last however many years you're telling me we're going to buy a house and nothing's ever come of it. I'm like, I went out and bought my own without you. Because that's what he always told me. He's like, you can't buy a house on your own, blah, blah, blah. Well, I did. And it was my saving grace.
So for now, that is Walter's Wives and Woes.
Bye.